Yes, thank you. Also, the meeting is being recorded just for us to take notes, and it'll be uploaded online. So if anyone has missed this meeting, or if you just want to go back and hear something else that you missed, you can definitely go online and check that out. All right, so the agenda, again, we're doing a peer review port out. We're going to go into the status of our cost saving efforts thus far, and then we're going to go into construction updates specifically to downtown and as well as the west portal at the New Hall Yard. And then we'll go into the path forward and next steps. Any questions, concerns? Folks online? All right, we're going to move over. I've got two clickers here for both of you. Okay. Try it now. All right, good afternoon. So we held a peer review, as you know, over the summer, over the last year. We've been working through cost savings efforts, and then we held a peer review in August with the leads from Sound Transit and LA Metro, who are working on major projects similar to ours, who have been in the situation that we are in, to review constructability, feasibility, give feedback on contract packaging and delivery methodology. So this was held in August, as I mentioned, and included attendees from those peer agencies, as well as our project team with the subject matter experts, representatives from FTA, from a project management oversight consultant, from BART, as well as from Paul Seidler, who's the BART Silicon Valley Board Oversight Committee's subject matter expert representative. We had a great time. We had presentations. We provided them with materials, and a lot of materials in advance. They were able to review and come with lots of great feedback. We spent a day and a half with them where they came the night before, and we were able to tour the West Portal site and go on a tour of the alignment. We walked through downtown, had dinner down at Gelatos, and then the next day, worked together in the office. You can see there on the bottom with lots of materials. So I wanted to go through some of the high-level summaries of the feedback that we received there. This information will also be presented at our Oversight Committee meeting on Thursday. And in the agenda packet for the Oversight Committee meeting is the actual report, if you're interested in looking at it. And we can also send it to the group if interested, where that's linked on our website. But as you may recall, we were evaluating two scenarios. Scenario one is a 53-foot diameter tunnel for the entire alignment. And scenario 1A was a 53-foot diameter tunnel from the west with a smaller 40-foot diameter tunnel from the east, where they would meet up somewhere just east of downtown. So their analysis resulted in scenario one being the optimal path forward from constructability to feasibility and with fewer risks. We don't have to worry about where those two tunnel boring sheets are coming together. Scenario 1A introduced the additional cost, additional cut and cover box downtown that would then create impact where that meetup location would be, and increased risk and complexity. We gave information as recommendations as it relates to cost estimates. As you can see here, contract packaging, breaking up into smaller contracts to reduce integration risk. Several different areas of feedback. And they also reiterated the importance of strong working relationship between VTA and BART, which we agree is critical to the success of our project, and encourage us to work together, maintain that relationship, and to continue the momentum with the construction underway. So there'll be more detailed description of this in our October 17th board workshop, where we'll have different representatives talking through in greater detail, but this will also be covered later this week. I want to get into where we are in the cost savings status. That we've been providing updates on cost savings we've been able to achieve. There's kind of four main areas that are remaining that we're still working through. There's some systems cost savings that we're still working through with BART. The downtown station, as I mentioned in our interim meeting in August, and those of you who were able to come in September as well, that based on where we had gotten at the time, we hadn't been able to achieve all the cost savings that were needed, and knowing that we were able to achieve significant savings by moving station infrastructure facilities above grade at the 28th Street Station and Diridon stations, and that's why we ended up having to make that change here as well, because we needed additional cost savings. So we're working through that, which Greg's going to talk about in a minute, working through refinements to the new hull yard with BART, and then landing on this project configuration, which path for the tunnel we move forward with, and then the resulting station. So we're continuing our engagement as it relates to those open items, and then today Greg's going to talk about the downtown station, and then I'll talk a little bit more about the configuration. Greg, over to you.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Erica. Greg Thibault here. I've met most of you before. So I'll talk a little bit about the downtown specific item. We have gone through and done a lot of these refinements at the various stations along the alignment, all four stations. Downtown was the most recent one that we've had to make some adjustments to. As Erica mentioned, we covered that in the last interim meeting. We do have some slides here to just reflect on that a little bit more. They are a work in progress. We do have a lot more work to do on the station design and the configuration, especially the finishes, and how those finishes look. But we've got kind of some refinements in terms of the overall layout. So again, here's where the station exists. This is very close to where we're at today. The location of the station doesn't change. The station entrance from the ground level down to the tunnel does not change. The only thing we've been able to modify is some of the above grade areas, as well as eliminating the basement where we had a lot of the equipment previously. So that's one thing that I think I've got a slide on here. If you can kind of picture this looking north to the right, the tunnel alignment or connection to the tunnel will be down on the lower left of the screen. Those are where those three elements tie into the tunnel. All of this equipment and gear and ductwork and everything was kind of located in a basement facility out behind at the north side of the structure. This doesn't show any of the passenger ingress egress. This is just kind of the core systems elements. And just to show you guys a magnitude of what we're talking about, there's a person there, a 6 foot tall person, and this thing is just a massive amount of material. So what we've done is essentially taken that basement structure that was on the north side of the station and stacked some of it on top of the existing head house. So the existing facility, we tried to make that as efficient as possible by adding some of that equipment right on top of the existing station. What that does do is add a second floor on the station, but it doesn't allow us to have that very, very tall roof that we had before, that tall ceiling structure. So the next slide shows kind of a little bit more detail. Again, this area here was that basement that we eliminated, which was a massive amount of construction just to build this. There was a lot of temporary works, soil and nail walls, all of those go away. We bring some of that gear up to grade. So some of the heavier transformers and things come up to grade, and then a lot of other material and equipment goes on top of the station, and then we go with a 2-floor station configuration. Again, the 2 escalator run scenario down to the concourse level does not change. So the passenger experience to go into the station and down to the actual tunnel does not change. We don't add a 3rd escalator. We don't make that drum any smaller. We just make the equipment and this station above a little bit more efficient by utilizing that same structural kind of component to house a lot of this equipment that we used to have out in this basement area. So that's the fundamental change with the downtown. Another thing we're working on right now is what this infrastructure facility looks like and where it would be located. We had previously shown it kind of in this kind of a north-south configuration over here. We think it actually might be better with our future TOD development of the site to have it facing Market Street, and then have kind of our public space on day one adjacent to this paseo. So this paseo opens up on day one. That's a non-drivable paseo, and that allows for passengers to come in and out of the station. And then we'd have an adjacent public space as well as this at-grade station infrastructure facility. This is where all some of that equipment that used to be down in that basin area would be relocated up to. We're still kind of working out the size of this facility. We're working with the VTA real estate team on exactly what that would look like. There will be some public bike parking in here, whether it's on this corner facing Market Street or whether it's on this corner facing the station. We've got some options that we can work through on that. So those are some of the things that we're going to be working on over the next 6 months.
Yeah, Greg, are you thinking about still having a park or something above the?
So that's when we had this station infrastructure facility in the middle. We really thought that a podium deck above would be the right solution, and that would be built out in the future by the development team who came in and did all the development here. So that is still potentially on the table, but right now the TOD team is thinking there might still be an elevated type facility here, an elevated podium deck, but they just wouldn't have to deal with this infrastructure facility below if we move it over here. So there potentially could be a podium on top of it over here, but probably not. I think that will happen as part of the TOD expansion, and the BTA real estate team kind of develop those plans. But there would be a lot of room to have a TOD high-rise facility kind of real close to this, as long as there's a little bit of access between there.
Okay.
So there's a lot of different options for how this block gets built out in the future for TOD. But we think that moving this station's infrastructure facility to front Market and then front the paseo, that gives us the access we need to all the equipment that's going to be inside of it. And then doesn't have a real hamper for the TOD, and it gets it a lot more wide open for the parking configurations, because they're going to have a below grade parking system and maybe a ground or a level or two above grade, and that really depends on how much parking they're going to provide. But it really kind of opens that whole area up.
Yeah, I think simplifies what you had before seemed to be complex. Really interesting.
Yeah,
there's a lot of complexity.
And that was real. Yes. So this really kind of makes this station area as efficient as possible. We try to maximize as much of the equipment that we can house in that station footprint as close to the tunnel as possible, because that's where all this equipment is feeding elements of work that are in the tunnel. So that's where we want to get it as close to the tunnel as possible. That saves on cost, saves on cables, wiring, conduit, everything that goes out. But we still need things at grade. And so BART is actually, a little bit happier with this condition, because we don't have to go down into a basement to maintain these things. They're at grade. We can get to them a little easier.
Well, cost and access and maintenance makes sense, and I know where we're at in budgets. We have to.
Yeah.
What's the truth along Market Street? How can you make the damage?
Yeah, so we'll talk about that. I've got some slides here, and that's something we can definitely work with all of us. We'll work on and how we want this thing to look and feel, facing Market, and then facing the paseo, and then facing this public space for day one.
Thanks. So the design and implementation of public space is going to be part of this project.
Right. Yeah. For the day one scenario.
There will be some public space as part of our project. The future TOD development will also include significant additional public space.
This is something that's going to be open and available.
Yeah, so like that area that you see there where the bike lockers are, there'll be some space day one.
So we talk about that as
for that.
Yep.
Yes, and then our TOD team will come back to a future meeting to give updates on kind of what they're envisioning as they're doing some brainstorming based on the change in our design here.
Have you started to actually place the equipment, Greg, in that infrastructure facility? And the reason I'm asking is there any way to even make that a two-story and put some of this stuff to get in maybe some of that space back? It just depends on the type of equipment, but you do that.
It does depend on type of equipment. A lot of stuff we're putting on the roof of the station too, to get it even closer. So we're trying to maximize it as much as possible. If we start swapping stuff out here, then we're driving cost up a little bit more. So it's kind of a balance.
Yeah,
And
there's a
we're
balance.
working with the real estate team and the city on kind of what makes the most sense. We definitely, that's a work in progress. We do have a layout of what's out in this facility right now. We know exactly what's out there, but there are a few things in here that we can talk about moving out here, but I don't know if it makes sense. I don't know if it really makes sense. So, but we also want to make sure that the passenger experience in the station is something that we all want to be part of. So it's definitely a balance. We're dealing with costs, and we're looking at a couple different alternatives.
Because we were talking a little bit about the skylighting and
so I've got some slides here which you show, and we've got a few different. This is a very, very high level concept, almost blank canvas type configuration of what the size of the station would be. That's really just showing the magnitude of the height of the station. It's not necessarily showing you finishes, but we brought in some of the previous, curvature that we talked about previously. I don't know if this is exactly what it will be. This is all stuff that we can talk through. We just kind of wanted to show what a person would be standing here, some signage, and then this facade treatment that would go from essentially property line to property line. So at about a 45-foot tall elevation, that's about where this thing is going to land. This is an interior view. Again, very rough concept. These are a couple skylights that we've got that will bring some natural light down into that drum. We're still working on how those look and how they feel and what the size is and how they open up and how, those are all work in progress. This ceiling is shown as just a flat surface. Obviously that can be modified. We're going to put some lighting in there. There's a lot of things that can happen on that ceiling. Right now, the ceiling itself is about 18 feet or so from the ground level up. We're looking at whether or not that's the best distance. The room we're in here, I took a measurement, is 23 feet. So this is a pretty expansive room. 18 feet might be, 5 feet lower. So, an 18-foot ceiling is going to be a pretty substantial ceiling. Whether we can get it a little bit higher is just going to increase the cost of the program. So we've got to be very diligent in kind of what we're talking about, what makes sense.
They don't make them the same.
No, they don't make them that's for sure. This shows a little bit of, this is not what we're proposing for our facade. We're just showing you a couple different, things that happen on Milpitas, right? So we've got some options for lighting and glazing and various different components of things that'll face Santa Clara Street, and that's part of what our working group will continue to evaluate and discover and make some determination on. And again, this will probably come to fruition at the beginning of next year. So we'll take the next 3 months or so to kind of hone our pencils, get everything kind of a little squared, a little bit more refined, and then we'll come back to this group and be able to talk to you all about, some of these decisions on some of these elements, the station facade, some of the materials, the exterior treatment, some of the things that we discussed previously to get us to where we were. But do we want to, now we have this kind of new vision, do we need to make some adjustments to those again?
What's the Milpitas height? Do you know by chance?
It's pretty tall. It's maybe it's in the 25-foot range, something like that. I think for the very tall, because it's kind of a dual level. So there's kind of one ceiling, and then there's the skylight, which is 5 or 6 or 8 feet taller. Right. Very difficult to maintain. So that's one of the downfalls of having those things. But anyway, Milpitas is a pretty tall station as well. Yes. This is a station out in New York, this Penn Station. So this is an underground station. This has about an 18-foot tall ceiling. This is all underground, but they used some lighting that really kind of made it a very brightened, experience. So that's something that we're going to continue to look at, is lighting as well as the ceiling type and configuration. But this just shows a scale of magnitude of people walking in an 18-foot tall ceiling, as well as kind of this, an escalator type component, which is kind of similar to what we have.
The old Penn Station or the new?
This is the new one, right? So this is the new one with the raised ceilings. Yeah.
Not the old one.
So I think we had a picture in here that actually had some construction signage in it, but I think we swapped it out with some new ones. But yeah, just to let you know that that's kind of a something comparable. Again, we're going to have a lot more natural light that we're able to use in our station, fronting Santa Clara, as well as coming in maybe from the skylight. So it'll probably be a little bit of a different experience than here. And then this is what I think you asked about, Alan or Tony. What does the facade look like facing this SIF structure? What does it look like facing Market Street? There's a lot of different options we can come up with and talk about integrating. You know, the intent isn't a CMU wall and paint it gray and you know, don't worry about it. I think we really want to make sure it kind of maintains the fabric of downtown. And whether that's through artwork or whether it's through different facade materials and offsets and configurations, those are things that we can kind of continue to look at.
Okay.
These are just renderings.
Say that again.
Right.
These are just pictures of other facilities throughout. I don't know exactly where all these came from, but they're just facilities that, you know, are industrial in nature, but have been kind of beautified in one way or another. Some after the fact, like you can see, okay, this is just a mural that's painted on gray wall, but it doesn't look too bad. This is an installation that looks like could have been kind of added after the fact. This relief and this, additional things here. This is just some, mosaic type patterns with tiles and things like that. And then here's where an actual integrated facade treatment was utilized, or screening was utilized. That's actually part of the structure itself. So they're all things that we can work through.
The savings you have from going below grade upgrade is substantial. I would hope we would hold on to enough to do something like the upper left corner and not the bottom right. Those bottom rights are great treatments after the fact. But I think a real facade differentiation.
And I think since this is a permanent structure, we don't think it's, this is something that's going to face Market Street
forever.
It's something that we want to make sure looks good. Yeah. Speaking of Milpitas, there are some facades out there that really blend in, I think, to the actual station, but it's really just a flat panel and you can't really tell what's behind it. But that's where all the equipment is. And that's on the other side near the bus station. So that bus station area of the transit facility, there's a bike parking area, then there's a bus operators, and then there's kind of a blank wall with a few doors. And that kind of looks like it all is part of one particular element, but it really kind of creates that facade that hides the equipment behind.
At what point in time will you complete final architectural design of the external facade?
So the SIF buildings, we're looking at, for downtown, probably middle to end of next year. Some of the other stations, 28th Street and Diridon, we've actually, done a lot of this work already, and there's not a lot of changes. So we've kind of had a design for Diridon and 28th Street that we now just need to hone and refine. Downtown, we're kind of making some major kind of refinements. We're making some changes. So we need a little bit more time to get those ready to kind of roll out to you. And then Santa Clara, that is a station that's a little smaller, so it's it's probably going to get pushed till middle to end of next year as well. So that's when we would continue to engage with the CWG as these things come up over the next few quarters. Yeah.
I'm a little bit concerned now that I see this, with the impact of Market Street. You just got nothing active there. It could be pretty, but this is the downtown crossing market, Santa Clara. Within that block, you can have just not active space.
If you go back to the opening day slide.
Yeah. You get a good TOD, you can.
It will be TOD adjacent, and then that green square is the bike parking facility, right? So there'll be that activation there, and then there'll still be the properties further to the north and south of the Paseo, as well as across the street.
Look at the photos. Look like they're much longer.
Yeah,
those are just examples of treatments. So that's kind of hard to.
So the Paseo, I think, is about 35 feet wide. This would be about 60 feet or so, and then if we have this activation zone, you're really only looking about like 25, 30 feet of kind of a facility. And there would be some doors there too. I mean, that's where we're gonna have some access points, and whether or not it, is one flat wall, or whether there's some reveal, we can work through all that.
I'm having trouble visualizing this. Where is the corner across the street here? Where the bike parking thing is?
Yeah, so this is the identified place for a public bike parking facility.
Greg, I think he's asking where the street corner is.
Oh, street corner's right here.
Okay.
Yeah, so here's Santa Clara. Here's the Santa Clara sidewalk. Here's our main station entrance. And there we would have a secondary entrance back here that all spills out in the Paseo. And then, as people come in, they can park their bikes here, walk in. There will also be some at-grade bike parking areas here, and then kind of an open, flat area here with probably some planting and planters and some different things like that. We want to make sure that we don't build too much here and then have it tear down a year and a half later. But we also want to make sure that we have something there that's available while this TOD development occurs, right? So, it's got to be hardscape. It's going to be ready to be utilized, but it's not going to be a permanent condition because there will be a high-rise building here, mid-rise building here, in short order.
That's going to be construction space.
It will ultimately probably be, but I think we will have available space there.
So the Paseo is behind the station.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Paseo is the north side of the station. So here's Santa Clara, here's facing north. You can walk through the station, go through the paid fare gates, go into the station, go down, come back up, and then you can come in and out this way too. So the Paseo is a walkable space. Say that again?
What is the point of having?
The Paseo?
Yeah.
The Paseo will provide an east-west connection here, kind of a separation from the station and any potential, the existing buildings here, and allow for kind of a mid-block crossing.
The other challenge we have downtown is we have really long blocks, right? So downtown is challenged with these huge blocks as a pedestrian that you have to walk around. So the Paseo
north-south
breaks that up. It provides other points of access to the inside of the block.
Right.
Similar to the other Paseos that the city has constructed downtown.
And then the first street corridor here with the light rail and VTA's planned light rail elements that are here, we've got kind of a connection to that station over here, the light rail station. Obviously you can cross down here and come over. So I think there's some flexibility here with this.
Can activate it too, right?
Yeah, and I think that the future TOD would definitely come in with some activation along here on the side
Sounds
as
nice.
well. Yeah.
What about the two buildings on either side of the station, Greg? Are they staying?
Those are not owned by VTA.
Right. You're just leasing the one on the corner, right? Yeah.
Do any of our members online have any comments or questions?
It just looks really exciting. It's nice. The visualization is really nice.
Great.
I'm envisioning how I get there with my bike. And I come from the south side, down First Street, on the left hand Paseo.
Right.
I said because Santa Clara is horrible for bikes.
Yeah.
Right.
For bikes.
Right.
Well, actually, I was going to mention that it's been some time since we've talked to you all, but Market Street is going to have a two-way bikeway on it as well. So that will be a new bicycle entrance into the block.
Oh, okay.
And into the station. So makes a lot of sense to have potential bike facility.
But Santa Clara.
San Jose is working on a vision for Santa Clara in the future. We don't know what that.
I'm okay leaving that just for us.
But yeah, Market's going to become a much better in the future bikeway. So.
What kind of traffic disruptions do you see along Market and North First Street and all this is happening?
What kind of?
Do you mean during
Traffic.
construction? Or are you talking about
During
when
construction.
it's in operation?
Or even after it's done?
So before we start construction in each project area, we develop a construction transportation management plan where we evaluate what the impact will be to the traffic during construction. That's something that we involve the community and the stakeholders in. We started for the Downtown-Diridon area. We'll be picking back up again soon. But that's where we'll get more information about during construction. But there is no, we're not providing BART patron parking here, so any of folks coming to the station are anticipated either to be transfers from rail or bus or pedestrians, bicyclists, majority.
Is there a big drop off place? I'm gonna drop people off at the station.
There, we are working through where that is.
It's more, there's some ADA pickup drop off areas, but there is not a very large public drop off for the downtown station.
Or the 28th Street.
28th Street, yeah. There's a lot of pickup drop off there, but downtown, no. You can always park at the city parking garage, right across the street. Right, Alistar? Plenty of parking over there. Yes, there's definitely parking right up there, real close by. All right, the other thing is just landscaping and hardscaping around the station building. This is just the downtown area. Berkeley Park Station, just to kind of show kind of what could be configured there, try to activate it as well. So I think, the plan is to continue for engagement with this group as well as the city and BART and our stakeholders, as well as the VTA real estate team. So this is all things that we will continue to do on a monthly basis, if not more than that, with a lot of these folks.
So landscaping and maintenance is all BTA or BART?
All maintenance will depend. So the drip line of the facility, everything inside the drip line will be by BART. Everything outside is by VTA.
Can you describe the drip line in different terminology?
I guess it's kind of the roof line, the overall kind of envelope of the building itself. That would be kind of everything inside is BART's wheelhouse. The things on the outside are VTA's maintenance staff.
Sidewalk, paseo.
Plaza.
Yeah, plaza, right.
Given that the pressure on the budgets are so intense, you guys have made a lot of great progress in making reductions that are just simply necessary, but you tried to elevate it. I'm very grateful for that. The confirmation that we're sticking with single large bore is absolutely essential to the prevention of destruction of downtown. So thank you. There's a lot of prices paid to keep the project on track. You guys are making post on that, so thank you.
Yeah, it's a balance.
It's a balance.
Can I pause for just a moment just to see if there are any folks online that have questions or comments? Since we've, all right, okay, let's move forward.
Okay, so I think Erica's going to talk a little about the two scenarios.
Yes. So we talked about the downtown station, and now let's spend a few minutes talking about the configuration, the project configuration decision we have to make, and why that matters. So we're going to decide between scenarios. Scenario 1A, which I'll show you an image of in a minute, I described earlier. So scenario 1A is concurrent. So once we make this determination, then we'll be able to advance the project to our 60% design. It affects how we approach our tunnel construction, which is a critical path, our ability to stay on schedule to maintain our projected revenue service date of 2037, and it provides our flexibility of how to proceed if for some reason the FFGA is delayed by the current administration. So we've been doing a lot of analysis, and I know we've presented to the board and to the community working group here on what the project team analysis has been. We went to the peer review. We're having that report out as well, and we've been engaging with Scott Seidler, project management oversight committee's subject matter expert on all of these things to review with him as well.
Is the peer review the same people you mentioned earlier, the LA, the Seattle?
Yeah.
And Dawn is who is that?
Well, Seidler is a firm that's that works for VTA's BART Phase 2 project management, VTA's BART Phase 2 oversight committee. So it's a subset of the VTA board.
So they facilitate the peer review meetings?
They did not facilitate the peer review. They were there. They participated in the peer review, but VTA led the discussions of the peer review. So they participate as an independent subject matter expert for the board.
Their contracts managed by our auditor's office.
Yes, thank you. And so reminding us of the two scenarios, scenario 1 is a 53-foot diameter tunnel the entire way. Scenario 1A is a concurrent tunneling with 53 from the west and a smaller 40-foot diameter from the east. So I know for a couple of meetings we've talked about what scenario A all entails, but wanted to kind of pull it all together and remind us today. So with scenario A, some additional construction considerations we have to take into account, which I'm going to talk about more in just a minute, is we have a new east portal launch structure that would have to be built. We would have to acquire an additional tunnel boring machine. The 28th Street Little Portugal station would become a large cut and cover structure to construct because of the smaller size of the tunnel there. And there'll be the retrieval shaft at the meetup location of the two TBMs somewhere along Santa Clara Street.
Retrieval spot 7th or 7th
So,
Street.
yes, and I'm going to get to that in just a minute. So yes, somewhere between 3rd and 7th. Yes, and so okay. And then as it relates to the schedule, there's initial startup activities that have to be done in order to be able to launch the tunnel boring machine from the east side. There is a faster tunneling rate for the smaller TBM, but also at that, with one tunnel boring machine, then you would drive the entire tunnel and you would extract the tunnel boring machine at the end at the east portal. But with two, then you have to extract both of them at the meetup spot, which then has the surface impact.
So we'll never actually see the TBMs. They'll be underground all the time once they start working, right?
Correct. Yes. So just to remind us, the tunnel diameter, the larger single bore tunnel on the right, where the platform fits within the tunnel. On the left, you see the platform doesn't fit within the tunnel, which is why we have to do the cut and cover structure for 28th Street. So this slide here just shows us where that launch structure would need to be. You can see near the green structure is a launch structure, and near the end of that there is near the end of Las Plumas Avenue. This is off of Mayberry Road and close to the our various transit center there. So you can see we would need additional temporary power. We would need a larger excavation area, more staging area. We have more tunnel excavated materials that we would have to off-haul, and we'd have to bring the site up to what we're doing right now at the West Portal to prepare to launch. And design, procure, and fabricate an additional 40-foot tunnel boring machine. This is the 28th Street station. On the left, you can see 28th Street. It's a little bit hard to see the graphic on the left. 28th Street is there along the bottom. North is to the left of the page, with Santa Clara Street off the page to the right, and Julian off the page to the left. So the rendering over on, the isometric view over on the right side shows an example of an underground structure in that this is not 28th Street because it's not on top of the tunnel, but you can see in order to construct, there's a much greater amount of volume that has to be. It's a 700-foot long hole that you have to dig versus just the shaft and then straight down with with the larger tunnel. So it's much more material, takes more time with this cut and cover construction.
Where does all the dirt go?
So that's something that we're working through, where the excavated material goes, depending on the material that's excavated from different station or different facilities, not the tunnel. It's evaluated whether it's clean enough to be reused or sent somewhere else. The material that comes out of the tunnel is mixed with a bunch of conditioners in order for it to be able to go through the tunnel boring machine. So it comes out the consistency of toothpaste. And so it's harder to reuse that material. So right now there's extensive studies going on if that's something that we can reuse for the Salt Ponds Restoration Project or different locations where it's taken to different landfills. So that's something the team's evaluating right now.
Do you have an idea how many tons of earth will be moved?
I think it's 3.5 million.
Water yards, I think it's yards.
Yards.
Yeah, cubic yards.
3.5 million yards. Yes.
Chat GPT to convert that for you.
So this slide talks about the meetup location. As I mentioned, it would be for one block only, but somewhere between 3rd and 7th. The bottom image there shows you about how much of a block it would take up. We have the shaft, and then we would need to close the area around it. At this location, this is where larger tunnel boring machine would get pieces of it would be taken out here, and then the smaller tunnel boring machine as well.
When you started first looking at this probably 20 months ago now, we were all the way on 13th and started kind of migrating into downtown. This puts us smack dab downtown.
Yes, this is in downtown, and there were some questions from the board that we're gonna be covering at our meeting on Thursday. But the team's still kind of finalizing today, so wasn't able to put it into the deck today. But looking at if we moved it to 13th now at this time, knowing what we know, what would the schedule offset be, and how what
Schedule
that
moving to 13th. Say you have perceived that your costs would go up because your schedule wouldn't get ideal schedule. So kind of okay.
Correct.
So this is the ideal schedule.
Yes.
Okay.
Is there,
It's difficult. Same conversation.
was there an approximate schedule savings of doing
Yes,
it?
I'm gonna get there in just a minute
Okay.
for this.
When the TBMs meet, do you take them apart or do they back out? How does that work?
You take them apart. There's certain pieces that get taken apart and taken out of the shaft there. Left of it. Right.
So some of the pieces would get left underground, actually. They kind of just pull them, notch them over. And then the parts that have value, cutter head, screw, and things like that.
So then here I'm going to walk through the sequence of when the tunnels were launched to see where they align. So I'm going to go back. So when we launched the 53-foot diameter tunnel, we're further along in the construction of the launch structure. We have our tunnel boring machine. You'll see pictures of it later today, in a little bit. So we launched that, and we won't be ready to launch on the east side yet. The launch of the 40-foot tunnel boring machine would happen for 10 months after the initial launch, and so the larger tunnel boring machine would be around Diridon by the time the east. The smaller machine launches in the east.
What's the point of having the Diridon and downtown station so close to each other?
I think that there was even an additional station initially studied previously in the early days, several iterations.
San Jose State.
But
State Hall. That's been on long.
Yeah.
And it actually makes sense. We got the multimodal transport, we got Diridon, and then you got that huge population office worker base at downtown.
San Jose State?
Yeah, San Jose State, so it absolutely makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to see.
Station takes the staff center,
Right.
connects people to
Right.
many other places. Downtown station takes Cathedral or First Street, San Jose State. Imagine if somebody got off of Diridon and they have to walk quite a bit, or bike quite a bit to San Jose State, for example.
I think the argument was the real populations at San Jose State. We have some population around here at San Jose State. That's so we've shifted it to downtown for ceremonial and office workers, but are we making the San Jose State kids walk further by this configuration? But I think it's too, we're through. It's long since discussed.
When we were in our environmental, when we got our environmental clearance, we evaluated a farther east location for the downtown station. That ultimately was not selected, so that was closer to City Hall.
And the 10th Street was also an option.
Yes, much earlier that was.
So the
an option as
40
well.
foot and the 53 feet represent the circumference?
Yes,
Uh,
no, it's the diameter, not the circumference.
I just want to quickly repeat a comment Anne Marie is asking. Did you want to unmute and ask specifically your question about the
Yeah.
SGSU?
Some of the speakers are a little hard to hear, and so someone was making a comment about San Jose State students, and I just couldn't hear everything that was about that comment and about that question. So if someone would mind repeating that, that'd be great.
Chris, Chris, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I'll see if I can say it a little bit louder. I'm going to try to summarize 10 years worth of conversations into 30 seconds. A lot of discussion about where the second station was placed in San Jose. Diridon made sense to everybody, but there had been a large contingent of people thinking that San Jose State was the real driver of population that'll be using BART. So could this have been brought closer to City Hall? to make it easier for San Jose State students and staff to be able to participate. And eventually, community decided that it was going to be downtown, directly in downtown. So
Great, thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Okay, so when the large diameter machine is a Diridon, it's when the smaller machine is launching. And then by the time the large diameter machine gets to the meetup location, the smaller diameter machine is only just past 28th Street, Little Portugal. And so it ends up arriving 7 months later at the meetup location. So because there's all these initial capital costs for the additional launch structure at the east portal, the tunnel boring machine, the larger cut and cover, and the meetup, there's a lot of additional capital costs that we would have to receive a lot of schedule savings in order to offset to make this viable, which we are not seeing with this option.
What was the purpose for month 10 though, to start the 40? Why couldn't it start much sooner?
Oh, for the East Tunnel Portal to start in month 10. So that's part of what will be in the presentation this Thursday, which we can tell, because we have to do, their environmental clearance of doing that. We have to procure additional right of way. There are several different activities that we have to do. We have to, before we can launch, we have to design, fabricate, and procure the tunnel boring machine, all these things that have to happen before we're able to launch there. So that's a great question that was asked before, and that's something that's being pulled together right now. So
40-foot machines, is that kind of a standard size for some of these tunnels? Do they have some around?
It's still considered a large one. It is not as much sitting around available for reuse.
So the meetup point there is near month 25, circles.
Yes.
This scenario.
Yeah. So without the 40-foot, would it take 36 months for the 53 one to go all the way out to East Portal?
Yes, it's roughly 36 months or so. Yeah.
So you had the meeting point where you have it there, but it's still 7 months away, which the smaller is there. Why wouldn't the meeting point be moved further east to save some of those months, some of that time?
So that's a great question. That's also something that was asked. So something that we're showing, and I don't have the slides to show you right now, but can verbalize. So we looked at if we moved it over to 13th Street, then the larger machine would go for that much farther over to 13th Street. There they would arrive closer to the same time. But once the steps for tunneling is once the tunnel boring machine goes through, then for concurrent tunneling, the tunnel boring machines need to be extracted, which takes time. And then they do the interior build out of the tunnel, and then they do the tracks, and then they do the systems required for the installation within the tunnel. So by having this 7 months difference between, this is actually more optimal because we can use 5 of those months to take and extract the larger machine while we're waiting for the other machine to come. Versus if they both get there at the same time, then you have the time to extract the large machine and the small machine before you can move to the next step.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yes. So as such, we have a board workshop on October 17th, Friday, October 17th. We'll be asking the board for direction on the project configuration to move forward with the scenario 1 configuration with the large 53-foot diameter tunnel the entire way. All right, now Brent's going to give us some construction updates.
Any final questions on scenarios?
Folks online as well, any questions on the scenarios?
Heading into the summer, there was enough concurrence by BART or Dulce in particular that one is the right way to go forward. That coming out of the August efforts, are they all aligned with the VTA that this is the best method?
Yes, so we have been having meetings with BART and progressing the conversations as it relates to the yard and the systems facilities, but the configuration there was not a disagreement on.
There wasn't, okay.
As far as the tunneling, they are, I guess, we're not entirely on board with the 40-foot diameter tunnel, so this is actually BART's preferred option as well to continue with the 53 diameter tunnel.
The GC has the same.
And then thank you, as it relates to Bellwether, then there's been several meetings where we've been evaluating and having detailed conversations, working through what our analysis showed. And so we're still working through that together. There was a meeting that happened today. So they're still progressing on that.
Consider, if new law discussions go the way VTA wants, there'll be enough savings identified that you feel comfortable that any, the rest of the money you may need to pull out, save, you could get that through for the rest contract with the contract negotiation.
Yeah, let me say that a different way, just to reiterate. So we need to move forward. We've taken the last year to identify the cost savings and to get where we are, right? And so by taking that time and the amount of time that we've been spending on that costs time and increases the cost due to the change in escalation over time, as well as the time that we've spent. So the longer that we wait to make a decision, the more costs we will incur. So knowing that moving forward, regardless of which way we move forward, we would need to have a tunnel. And we want to make that decision now and move forward concurrent with while we're closing, and finalizing and working together with BART over the next several months on the yard and what that refinement looks like. And knowing that we're still looking at additional funding sources, but we're confident in our cost estimates and our ability to close that gap. We want to make sure that we make that shift right now so that we can stay on schedule for our path to applying for the full funding grant agreement, which I will walk through after Brent gives the construction update.
They're going to be happy with the money situation. That'll grant the FGA be happy where you are.
Right. Yes, we will be applying when we're in the right spot. Yes.
Good questions. All right. Often we're talking to you about construction over at West Portal, but we do have some things to cover in downtown that are coming up. So we wanted to keep you all in the loop. We're going to be having, PG&E is going to be doing some work to support an upcoming building demolition of the Gross and Home building here on our block. So they have to sever the gas service there, and it is in First Street. So it's going to require a closure of First Street beginning tomorrow, actually. So we have let some of our key stakeholders know. You probably got an email from Adriano out here. You all want to share this with your networks downtown, we'd appreciate it. We do have some detours here, either Market or 3rd Street if you're trying to head north. We expect the work to be 2 days worth of work, and there will be pedestrian access maintained. Also done some flyering for the nearby businesses as well.
So which building is going to be demolished?
I'll talk about that. Well, let's just go to that one right now. So here in red is what we call the Gross and Home building. This is used to be an old courthouse building. Before that, it was an office house building. It's facing First Street on the VTA block that Greg was talking a little bit about. But this building needs to come down. It's really in bad shape. It's flooded years ago. There's a lot of issues with it. Next week, we're going to begin inside the building doing some of the hazmat remediation that we need to do before the building demolition begins next month in November. So there will be people, smaller crews working inside the building. And then we're going to start most of our public outreach ramping up for the actual demolition when the excavators arrive on site. So we're anticipating in early November the demolition crew mobilizing. We expect it that to take them a week or two to kind of mobilize, get their plan in place, and then anticipate about a month to 2 months of demolition work to take the building down safely. There will be a temporary sidewalk closure, although First Street will remain open, and we will be taking part of our lot for the construction demolition crew so that they can mobilize their forces there. Again, we'll be ramping up our outreach here kind of in the next week or two, working with our key partners. Our goal is to get this down before the year, right? We want to support the city's goal with these big events coming up, make sure that we have the building down, that we're being a good partner. And then once the building comes down, we'll be doing some minor paving and remediation work to make sure the site's presentable for our big events that.
So basically a 2-month project.
2 to 3 months, yep.
Anything can be done for the mural that's on the south side?
There is nothing that can be done for the mural, unfortunately.
Just wondered.
Although in proper practice, we have notified the artist that mural was installed with our partner Local Color, And so the artist is aware, they were aware when they installed the mural that it would come down after a period of time. So there is photo documentation of the mural. It is a great mural, but it is unfortunately coming down. All right, and then I'm going to go back to another item that's going to be happening later this month. Our contractor is going to be doing a minor bridge investigation of what is a bridge owned by JPB. This is the bridge over Santa Clara Street. So we want to do some work in the street. It's going to take a couple of days. It will include a minor lane closure. Thank you, Chris, for letting us know that you have a big event the week before. So we were able to accommodate that request and push this work off another week so that we can kind of accommodate that event.
Very grateful, thank you.
Yep.
So the notice you sent us,
Yep.
is that the old date or is that the new date?
You know, Alan, we could get an updated one actually now that we have a little bit more that our data is changing.
I think your dates, we were at 17 dates, wrestling.
Yeah, so the notice is stated as early as, so it's the notice that went out said as early as 17th, which is a Friday. And so now we're saying as early as Monday, the 20th, we'll be doing it. For our notification purposes, you know, we like to give the sufficient notification, but I think that the team is still working through getting the permit from the city and things like that. So I'm not sure if we would be ready to have it start on the 20th, but that would be the earliest we start. So I don't know that we'll.
When you get the exact dates,
Yeah.
let us know.
Yeah, we can definitely let you know, but yes, but what you have for now still works.
I did hear that request. So when we do get scheduled dates, we'll let our CWG know.
I don't need to tell them, no earlier than dates change, I don't care about that. But that
This work's going to kind of occur outside of the peak time, so they'll be, you know, setting up after the morning peak and then ticking down. Yeah, so 9 to 3:30 is the expectation there. Expect to take a couple of days. All right, let's move to West Portal. Any other questions on those downtown items?
Folks online, any questions?
Yeah, any folks on questions
No
online?
questions.
All right, just to bring us into focus here, remember West Portal is located at our New Hall Yard near the future Santa Clara Station. This is kind of the general layout of the yard. I did want to call attention to this in comparison to the East Portal yard that Erica showed earlier in the presentation. The main difference being that the West Portal is really set, it's in a very different environment, right? It is really kind of behind a lot of our stakeholders. It's off a lot of local streets. And, you know, there's a lot of different things at play at the East Portal that would, you know, there are other things we'd have to consider at the East Portal with that scenario 1A option. So just to kind of wanted to bring that up before we jump into construction here.
Will trains stay there overnight? Or
This will eventually be the place where we store trains, do maintenance. There'll be locations for BART workers out here. So what you're seeing on this map is kind of a layout of how our contractor has envisioned delivering the West Portal and the tunnel. So there'll be facilities here to build the lining segments. We will be storing some of the muck here temporarily before it gets off-hauled. The structure we're going to talk about today is this top one in kind of green turquoise. Okay, that's what we call our launch structure. That's what we're constructing right now. We wanted to show you all some of the progress that we've been making. Really want to show you progress. Oh, there we go. The launch structure in 3D. Really a big engineering feat. On the left of this structure, you kind of see this rounded part that we call the caterpillar structure. Because it kind of looks like your friendly caterpillar, right? From that book we all used to read. And in the middle of this structure, these are walls, panels that we are literally building underground. These have a lot of rebar structures. We're kind of building essentially a big bathtub underground right now. So you can't see it from the surface, but our contractor is making significant progress on these walls. And then to the right of the structure, to hold back the soil, we're using metal sheets. So those have all been installed over the last several months. So all the metal sheets are in. They're about 60 to 70% of the way through constructing the walls on the middle section. And I want to walk you through next some of the photos for the Caterpillar structure, because this includes some pretty incredible pieces of rebar and things that our contractor's been installing over the last several weeks. So these items in yellow and green, we call these Y panels. If you look at them from the top, they kind of look like the letter Y. At least that's what my engineers tell me. We've completed 2 of these. What this takes is digging 135 feet down into the ground, excavating all of that soil, building a rebar cage, which we lift up, and then we place it into that hole, and then we fill that hole with concrete from the bottom up. And this entire process takes about a week to 2 to do each of these individual Y panels here. So showing you what that looks like, we currently have one of the biggest cranes in the country working on site right now. The boom of this crane can extend over 300 feet. It can lift a lot of weight, and this is required to lift this really, really heavy cage that's being constructed here. It also took another crane that's about half the size to build this crane. And how many trucks?
39 trucks.
39 trucks to deliver all the pieces to put the crane together. So big crane required little crane to build, which is just really fun construction stuff. So this is what we call it.
Counterweight. Giant counterweight.
What's that, James?
How does it keep tipping over? It looks so big.
You can see all the weights on the back of it here. So that's what, you know, all the specifications require to create that balance when we lift the rebar there. So this is a frame that is being constructed. We have 2 of these on the site right now. And inside this frame is where they build a large rebar cage, the actual cage that is placed down inside the panel. The rebar weighs so much that to lift it up in the air, we had to build an actual separate steel structure just to support its weight before we lift it into the air. So that's, yeah, that's very unique. So our contractor, Kiewit, designed this unique method of lifting these cages.
Tip it up.
Yep.
Tipping frame.
Tripping frame. Tipping, tripping.
Tipping makes more sense.
So there's a big structure on the bottom, you know, where the cage is, the frame is connected to. The cage is built over a period, couple weeks in each frame, and then it's typically lifted before the weekend, and the lift takes several hours. So the crane actually lifts it up, it picks it up, and then it actually turns. We do have a video for you too that we will show you, which is really cool. You can see it kind of getting higher here. So each one of these rebar cages weighs as much as 10 fully loaded school buses or 26 African elephants. So it's a lot of weight.
And fully loaded school buses, how much do the kids weigh in that?
Now you're really testing. A lot of kids. So Nan, I don't know if I can play this video or, oh, so, okay. So this is the sequence. This is of our second Y panel lift that happened last weekend on about September 26th. So we'll play for you what this looks like here.
Sorry, I guess you can't. I'll play it for you.
There you go.
There we go. You can kind of see the crane inch forward at the beginning, just slowly as it lifts.
Oh. Good stuff.
Picks it up.
It's already bended.
So the crawler on this crane is over, just the tracks are over 8 feet high.
Yeah.
So none of us even top out as tall as just the tracks are of the crane. Our construction director loves to, we like to use her as a point of scale. So we put Sarah, our construction director, you know, next to the tracks just so you can see how big they are.
And then pick up the rebar frame for once it's vertical.
Correct. So that's the next thing. So then the crane picks the rebar up out of the cage, and then it places it into the hole after it's been tipped up.
Was all that steel and rebar American or some from Japan or from those?
We're required to buy America for our project for all of our steel.
Even though it's more expensive.
That's the requirement. Yep. That's part of the agreement with FTA is some of that does get reimbursed by the government as part of our grant.
So once you're vertical, then the rebar cage will be self-supported. It's not gonna collapse one way or another. And then you reuse the frame
Correct.
for the next phase.
Yeah, and so they've built 2 frames. So they're kind of working in advance on one frame for the next Y panel, while the one that they're lifting is in place. So they can kind of be doing 2 things at once. Yeah, so we've completed 2 of those. The third one actually got lifted today, actually. So it's going to be probably placed in the hole tonight or early tomorrow morning. And then after it's placed in the hole, there's actually 10 to 12 hours of straight concrete pour. That's how much concrete it takes to fill the hole. So it's just a constant stream of concrete trucks coming to pump into the hole. And they start from the bottom and they pump the concrete up.
And do you have the plant running on site yet, or do you get concrete from elsewhere?
It is not running on site. This is all brought in on trucks right now. There will be a concrete plant built on site when we are constructing the tunnel liners. Okay. Yeah.
What is the point of the rebar and the cage? I mean, is that to stop a speeding train from being in something or what?
So the caterpillar structure that I showed you earlier is the deepest part of the portal. So as the train comes down, it's going to be at a level of about 80 to 90 feet below ground, but the overall structure goes well below that to about 120, 130 feet. So all the weight of the earth pushing on this structure is a lot of weight. So the way that structure is designed, it's one of the strongest designs, right? That caterpillar shape to hold back all of that weight. So it requires a lot of rebar, a lot of concrete.
This is the terminus point for the KSD contract. They'll finish the caterpillar and the ramp, and then somebody else will take over.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So KSD are the whole launch structure.
They'll do the whole launch all the way down. Okay.
So this structure alone, the value is about $500 million worth of construction value alone, just to build the structure, all the design and all the construction work going into it.
Huh.
So here's them kind of pumping the concrete there. The top right picture here is a picture of what the panel looks like after the rebar has been installed, right? So there's concrete's been poured. There's kind of these pieces of rebar still sticking up, so they're cleaning them there. And on the bottom right, you can see kind of the next frame being built in the structure. That takes 2 to 3 weeks just to build the frame alone. And we wanted to show you our tunnel boring machine. So I'm getting a lot of questions about the boring machine. Erica walked us through the scenarios. You all have asked in the past, is the machine done? Where is it? So this is the machine. It is completed. It is in Germany.
For 53-footer.
This is the 53-foot large bore machine. It was completed earlier in the summer. Our team's going there to do some additional inspections and work with Heron Connect, who built the machine for us. They're maintaining it for us on a monthly basis right now. But it's large. So you can see on the left there, these are all the women from Heron Connect and from our team, from our design team. Pretty special picture that worked on this machine here. Standing in front of the machine there gives you some perspective of how large the tunnel will be underground, right? It's almost the size of a 4-story commercial building.
So you take it apart, put it in ship pieces?
Yeah, it will be taken apart, put on a barge, and shipped through the canal eventually to get here.
You'll keep it there until the full funding agreement's signed. Does that stay stored there and maintained? Pretty good ship.
It'll be stored there for 18 months.
Yeah.
Until we're ready.
That's a good picture.
What's the power source for that thing?
So we'll be tapping into the PG&E feed right there at the west portal. So if you go out there, there's a 112 kV drop that will actually have a step-down transformer, and that's right where the power source will be for the TBM itself. And then ultimately we'll convert over to a final power source for the BART system will be there. Will be fed there as well.
So these
So you have a substation
2
there
for 1
on the ground?
There's one there existing right now, right at New Hall Street. very close to the west portal. We're lucky to have.
So
that.
it's all electric then?
Yeah.
Yes.
Very good.
So as the machine bores, it actually, all the power facilities follow it, right, to drive it through the entire 5-mile tunnel. So it's a big endeavor.
How long is it? We saw the front there with the lady.
Yeah, this is the last perspective here. I don't actually know that specific.
Really depends on what you're talking. The trailing gear can go for, go all the way out to where, the portal is. So you just keep going and they keep conveyor belting all the material that comes out to the front.
Long extension cord.
Yeah, long extension cord, that's right.
So is it like, maybe a foot a day, or how much does?
I think we're targeting, 35 feet a week?
A day.
A day. Sorry, 35 feet a day.
We probably, as we get closer to kind of the machine coming, we're probably going to put together a nice fact sheet or package on the machine. It's really an engineering feat. It's something really to celebrate this machine. So there's a lot of fun facts about it. So James, that's a good question. We'll make sure to get questions like that.
The whole naming thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
But when you're done, you repurpose it. So it doesn't get shipped anywhere else. You repurpose it.
Potentially, again, the key parts of the machine may be repurposed, but most tunnel boring machines are considered custom-built machines.
Okay.
So it's possible, Sarah, our construction director, says that when we're done with the machine, that there may be a project needing a machine of similar size. We don't know that right now. But most machines are built for the custom environment under the earth, right? There's so many configurations to consider when you build a tunnel boring machine.
I can only imagine what the extension from Daly City to Newhall would cost. This one cost 12 billion, or I don't know what the number is.
All right, let's move forward to next steps for the project.
All right, so in the past, we've shown our, what we call our rainbow schedule, our path to FFGA. And so we had this, and we're sharing it last fall and last summer before we heard back our receipt of our committed funds from FTA. And so we have now updated it based on that we've kind of gone through our cost savings effort, and we'll walk you through it here today. So first we have our design milestones and our construction activities here. At the end of last year, our cost savings concepts design was at approximately 15%. So over the next, the rest of this year and through mid-year next year, we'll be advancing the design for those areas of the project where we implemented cost savings to get them to roughly 60% of the design. As you recall, we started the construction of the launch structure early this year, I guess. It got the authorization at the end of last year. Throughout the entire time, we have engagement with you all, as well as our auditor general. In addition, the addition on this line is the peer review that I've been talking about that we had in August. So that's added onto this line. VTA board decisions. As you recall, there was the decision on the CP2 stage 2 off-ramp that we made in June of this year, and the revised project configuration for Q4 24. That is the October 17th meeting that we'll be having in the coming weeks. We'll then be continuing to present and bring things back to the board, because as we advance the design, we'll be looking at the configuration, we'll be reviewing the cost schedule and budget, and doing our environmental clearance as well before we move forward. And then at the bottom, we have our FTA milestones. So I'm going to walk through kind of how they connect together. Okay, so we get our, once we get our direction on the project configuration, then we will be able to advance the design, which then feeds into the cost and schedule of the project. which then gets included into our readiness documents that we submit to FTA. And once we submit those documents, we will also have a risk assessment where we evaluate the cost and schedule and the configuration and the risk with our Federal Transit Administration, as well as our project management oversight consultant. And then after that occurs, then we would submit the FFGA application at the end of 2026. We anticipate receiving it mid-year 2027.
So is this kind of a dam with torpedoes kind of thing, or is it going to meet the same fate as the California high-speed rail?
So this is our path based on where we are, knowing that there is some uncertainty with the current administration. We are working on an adaptive plan that would include tunneling in some portion of the project with local funds until we were able to get federal funds. So knowing that would be the case, the tunnel is still the critical path item. The same set of activities tying to the critical tunnel construction activities. We had the board authorization to start the launch structure last year. That construction started, and then with the change in the decision to off-ramp the contractor, as well as the confirmation of configuration, and then getting the FFGA, we would get that where we would award the tunnel contract to the new contractor, who would then mobilize and then start tunneling in Q2 or Q3 of 2029.
It seems like it's the same scope as we had here after we studied a lot of different things. Same scope, some reductions, local decisions, VR, local station. Then you got that we have that we're coming back, prior to the contractor at that point in time, revalidating budgets, but we lost probably a year and a half to get this all back on track. Is that fair?
Yeah, so the start of tunneling would be, when we decided to make the off-ramp KST, there would be a potential implication to the start of tunneling by 18 months, not to the overall revenue service date, or for when we would start tunneling. And so in working through and refining things, we're trying to burn back some of that time. Yeah, so this is showing a delayed start, but we're working through and shortening that.
The 18-month possible.
Yeah, the 18 months. Yeah.
That includes like different contracting package strategies, right? So breaking down some of the work into smaller pieces so that we can advance them.
Taking the recommendations
Which
to
is
summary.
perfect transition into the next slide on contract packaging.
Sorry to get ahead.
Okay. So we got feedback from peer review on contract packaging, and so we are now the project has a team that's establishing criteria and objectives as it relates to contract packaging and delivery methodology. And this kind of walks through some of the steps, developing the packaging scenarios and doing the assessment, getting additional subject matter expert input, developing a recommendation, and advancing with different contract packaging based on what we heard from the peer review. So we'll working through, as we leading up to off-ramping KST, spent a lot of time looking at what that tunnel contract would be, their contract would be converted into. And so now spending that time on the rest of the project elements.
So Erica, do you anticipate on delivery that it could be a multitude of delivery methods, or is this going to be all design build or all design bid build? Or?
Yeah, they're looking at a variety of methods. So see, construction management, general contractor, CMGC, as well as design build, design bid build. So yeah, there'll be more updates in the future on this.
Will Kiewit and the JV currently in place, or are they the ones going to do all this physical work, or that might change?
So no, as of right now, VTA elected to take the off-ramp. So the Kiewit Shade Trailer joint venture will only finish constructing the launch structure, and then we will go out and re-procure and bring on a new contractor to do the rest of the work.
So you must already start to work on that part.
Correct. Yes.
Are
So
they-
that's where we have worked on that contract packaging before as we were ramping up to that decision. And so now that we have that, we're advancing that concurrent with looking at how we package the rest of the project based on the feedback we received from the peer review, from their experience and their review of how we had initially packaged it.
So what is key with the current JV done?
When they finish the launch structure construction, which is in the first quarter of 2027.
Are they precluded to go after it again individually, or since it's a new packaging structure?
You know what, that's a great question. I'm not sure of the exact answer, so we'll have to circle back to you on that. Just highlighting here, we've been out and about in the community at various events, doing a lot of engagement as it relates to the station design. So putting out our noticing, we had our interim CWG meeting. We were at the Santa Clara Parade of Champions this last weekend. For those of you who were there, we are headed to Santa Clara City Council tonight to give an update on the Phase 2 project, as well as to get their approval to amend our construction transportation management plan to add an additional 2 hours a day for the team to be able to work to install those critical Y panels that take over 24 hours to complete. We'll be headed there tonight, and we've got our groups this week.
So Erica has another meeting, basically.
Moving forward, we're going to continue to engage on the station. We're working through engaging with BART. This Friday, I guess missing from this slide is this Thursday's oversight committee meeting, which is at noon. The BART Phase 2 subset of VTA BART oversight committee meeting. And then this Friday, October 10th, is the joint VTA BART working committee. That meeting will take place in Oakland. And then next Friday, we have this board workshop special meeting where we'll be covering the path forward, our cost savings scenario, getting the forward direction on that, as well as the update on the FFGA timeline that I gave you all today, and then more details on the contract packaging.
October 17th, you guys put to rest the
Correct. Yeah. That's it.
Given the current federal government anti-DEI stance, how do you envision that it would impact anything we've talked about today?
Yeah,
I don't.
I mean, I think locally we're standing strong with our DEI partners, I mean, our CFO, our contracting group has put out a memo a couple months ago saying that we're not changing our processes internally in terms of how we issue our contracts. So aside from that, if you'd like us to look or ask more internally for our contracting team, I'm happy to ask for you. But DEI is still a strong component of the VTA and our culture here of supporting our community, our community-based organizations, and how we do business as an organization.
It just seems like the feds are want to deny funding when you have any kind of DEI initiative going on locally.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I think,
case.
yeah, what we've been continuously talking about, like at a federal level with our lobbyists, is also just what incredible economic benefits this project does bring to this region, which is something that the administration does gravitate towards, right? Job creation, economic stimulus. So continuing to highlight all the benefits of the project, not just the equity components as well.
Yeah, the work that KST is doing to build the launch structure, we're pulling, investing at 41 different states across America in order to do that construction, whether it's from teams or materials. So that is also something that is of value to the current administration.
Actually, I don't know if we brought that map to you all before.
No, we should.
Yeah, maybe next meeting, or we could send it out to you. It's a pretty impressive map of all the materials that KST is sourcing, and it will be like potentially even more for our tunnel contractors, right? That there are businesses across the country, suppliers across the country required to build a mega project like this. In red states and in blue states, in small cities and in large cities. So it takes really the whole country to build a $12 billion project. We can't do it just within California.
What kind of legislation should we anticipate to support funding in the near term? Are there bond measures or something?
Are you referring to this project? Or
Yes.
just transportation in general? I mean, I think we're sticking with, well, you can talk more about our strategy.
Yeah, we're not, we're exploring non-local funds, so not any local bonds or, I mean, we have between the Measure A sales tax and the Measure B sales tax, we have quite a bit of local funds being contributed already. So we're continuing to look at other sources, but not that. So we don't have anything identified right now to share as far as what the could be.
We did recently secure an additional 100 million in state funding.
Yes.
Several months ago this summer. So that was 2 critical grants that we had applied for last year that we were securing and working on finalizing with the state. So that helped us close this gap that we've been talking to you all about for the last year as an outside source of money that we didn't have to find within cost savings or engineering.
Thank you guys very much.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Thank you.
Do our folks online have any questions? Edward, our Lone Ranger. Okay,
Actually, Brad, I got one last one, but.
Yeah.
Has anybody projected about how far the 6 billion that we have goes
thanks,
as
Edward.
far as this project? When do we run out of money? Are we tunneling part way, most of the way, all of the way?
So I think right now the plan in our schedule, you know, we don't anticipate awarding the tunnel contract until we have the full funding grant agreement. As we're getting closer to that date, it's seeming like we're not going to get the full funding grant agreement, and that's when we would start to implement our adaptive plan to start doing tunneling and advancing the project with local funds. So as we get closer to that, we'll have a better sense of when, if we would need to implement that approach.
It's probably no longer, but I would say 6 months ago, a year ago, was very detailed presentation provided to the board, and we now have actual pieces.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a lot of
Yeah.
a lot of
Right. Right.
but it kind of
Okay.
Yes, and that's what this Q2 26, you know, as we lock in the project configuration, and, you know, VTA will be locking in the financial plan as well as we're getting ready to apply. And so that presentation of the documents will include an updated financial plan before we apply. So it'll be similar level to what Adrian was talking about with the current.
We can get that, Adrian, online?
yes.
Yeah, we can send the link. to
Yeah,
you.
that'd be great.
It's likely out
Granted. Yep.
Just an idea.
Just curious to see. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Thank you folks online for your grace today with our tech issues. Very lovely to have you. Have a good night.
Well, you get to have a nice ride home. It's not cold anyway. That's good. Oh, yeah.